Yesterday was more like a curtain raiser in terms of creative understanding and imparting to you what creative writing is all about. Today will be slightly boring in the sense I'm going to actually take an article, start off with an abstract, and show you what it means to write an abstract. It could be useful to you at the same time. For some people, it may look to you as if it is slightly advanced. Now, because the participants are only about 48, can I ask NAPSRI students, chairperson or whoever that is, to allow people to open their conversations or unmute their mics? I want to ask a few questions.
So that permission has been enabled and they can unmute themselves.
Okay, so you all can unmute yourself. My question is, has anybody who is here today written in an academic way, in other words, an article for a journal, or has assisted a lecturer to write a research paper which is being published or is under consideration? Is there anyone who has done that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And who is that? Who said that?
Vanita here, sir.
Yes, Vanita. All right. What was your paper about, Vanita?
It was about changing livelihood patterns of Gond tribal women in Gadchiroli district of Maharashtra.
Right. And where was that published?
Sir, it's in Tribal Intellectual peer-reviewed journal of TISS.
Okay, so it's in a TISS peer-reviewed journal. So do you belong to the Tata Institute?
Yes, sir. I'm a PhD scholar from Tata Institute of Social
Oh,
Sciences.
okay. So you are one above all these people, because I think most of the students here are BSWs and MSWs. And that's why we started off with a little bit of an earlier creative orientation. That's good. You're a PhD student. You've already written an article in a peer-reviewed journal. Anybody else has done anything? Anyone else has done anything? Okay, so they're struggling. They're struggling to say, because their writing is a struggle. Doing those assignments itself is a struggle, and expressing in a language which is other than your own is also a struggle.
I'm also struggling, sir, but maybe I have written. I'm not sure I have written well or not, or that is thing. But I have written and it has published. So.
Well, you see, the point is, if it is published, what it means is somebody has seen it.
Yes.
The journal has some standards. And, every journal cannot be compared, let's say, to the International Journal of Social Work or International Journal of something else, or Filipino Journal of Community Development or Indian Journal of Community Development. So everybody has their own standards.
Yes.
The whole idea is to begin writing. That is the most important thing for us all to start. And as I was saying yesterday, I think the most important thing for all of us is to begin somewhere, and beginning somewhere actually means beginning with reading. Now, how often do you get opportunity to read somebody else's articles, read some journals, and read some or help somebody else to write an article? That is the kind of question. So these questions don't have to be answered, but these are the kind of questions for which you need to find answers. So what I'm going to do basically at this point of time, if I'm allowed to do, I think I'm allowed to do that. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen with you and begin my conversation today, and hopefully we should be in a position to work this out. Okay, the idea of this particular talk is about reading an article and summarizing. I've actually very specifically given that title. Already you know about thinking about writing, which is what we have done yesterday, and this is the second part. So in the second part, what I intend doing is move on to, for those of you who are coming for the first time today, I'm Venkat Kula. I'm originally from India. I started off in Hyderabad, and then of course for a long time I taught in India, and then I moved to Australia. In the last 30 years I've been in Australia, but I keep coming to India almost twice a year. It's unfortunate times that we are living in COVID, so I couldn't go there. And I have a number of students from all over the world, and I have also a number of colleagues who have attended my lectures from Philippines, and a number of students that have also collaborated with me in writing alongside with me from various parts of the world. Now, the purpose of this particular brief workshop, as I can put it on, is to tell you what you need to jot down when you are going to begin, when you start beginning your reading, and how that will actually help you over a period of time to start writing, to sharpen your writing, and to actually begin your own writing. As last workshop is, I believe last workshop is available on the internet, but also a recorded version, a previously recorded version of my talk is also available on YouTube. And I'm hoping that some of you who have not attended yesterday's workshop, which was much more rigorous than my own recording, can also have a look at that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin this by the first rule, that is about reading an article. And the reason why I put it so boldly is you have to begin reading. Whether you begin reading your own, colleagues' articles, your guides' articles, and the other thing also is in some of our countries, especially South Asian countries, we may not find enough inspiration because our own guides have actually not written much. And in such situations, it becomes a bit difficult for us to, what do we do and how do we follow? It does become a bit difficult for us. But nevertheless, when you start researching, when you start working out what you want to do, what you want to really research about, you will, the number one rule again from yesterday's conversation is you must sit down, take time, and it's not going to be as easy as writing a poem. And of course, writing a poem was also not very easy, because yesterday when someone shared a poem with you, you knew how beautifully it was done. And we are hoping that, by doing some kind of moderate reading as a habit, you will probably try to understand and move on. So today's workshop has a little bit of PowerPoint, and after that, it will also show you some of my Word documents, so that what I'm going to show you through PowerPoint are also further given to you through some of the Word documents which I'll be using as examples. So that's what we intend doing. Okay. So what do you expect to read in an abstract? One of the things that I always want to read in an abstract is the bare questions and the sequence in which they are raised. I'm going to give you an example. Once you plan any kind of an abstract, I want to see some sentences which are very similar to the sentences that might be coming up in the next few slides. So what is an abstract? First of all, let's begin with one question. What is an article? An article is one which will obviously have a title. Let's say COVID-19, university students, their difficulties. Let us assume that is the title of your topic. If that is a topic that you have, and that is the title of your topic, what is it that I'm expecting? It must have a research question. Lots of students ask, what is a research question? Anyway, I'm going to ask some questions. Will one of them be a research question? That is a question. So what happens is, a research question is a central question in the topic. And then, of course, we move on to raise a few further issues. So let us start. Here's an example that I'm going to give you. This is an example of an article which is called, Are There Sexual and Reproductive Health Rights Globally? This article has come out in a review in COVID Times. There is no COVID Times as a journal, but I'm just making it up for you to teach you this. And it's written by Hitchcock T and myself, and along with another Hitchcock who's also a T. Okay? So it basically means it's already, I'm just trying to work out a fiction for you. So what is it going to ask? Are there any sexual and reproductive healthy rights globally? And what is the journal in which it is going to be published? The journal is called International Journal of Sanity and Health Metrics. I think we need a journal like that. It's a nice title, but actually it is a fiction. I just made it up for myself. Okay, now let me move on to what is the research question. The research question, or potentially a research question, is that follows from the topic: what sexual and reproductive issues are caused by various coronavirus outbreaks, including COVID-19? Interesting. So you can imagine how everybody who wants to do research, social workers do research in one particular area, mathematicians would like to do in some other area, economists would like to do in some other area, and public health and social work people probably would like to go into this. So what was the topic? Let me go back to the topic. The topic was, are there sexual and reproductive health rights globally? And then the next is, what sexual and reproductive issues are caused by various coronavirus outbreaks, including COVID-19? That's a research question. So, why am I writing that article? Or why are that particular team writing that article? It's about SARS and MERS, previous coronavirus outbreaks in 2002, 2012. What caused serious pregnancy issues, including miscarriage, prematurity, fetal growth restriction, maternal death, and fetal distress? It's important to understand the sexual and reproductive health impacts of COVID-19 to then shape interventions to respond to these in future. So in other words, when you are writing an article, questions are, what is it about? Why is it about? What possibly will be the question that you will ask? What would that question that you asked provide you the answer which will be useful? And what would that answer be useful for? Can you see that every sentence that I made here has been made out in a question form? It is indicative that research means questioning a question, leading to a counter question, and hoping that at some point of time it would lead us to an answer. Okay, So what is the theoretical proposition in my research? In this research, the theoretical proposition or hypothesis advanced or evaluated in this article will be: what is the gendered norms of women as family caregivers and frontline health workers exacerbate higher risk of infection? Gendered norms of women as family caregivers and frontline health workers increase higher risk of infection. Functioning, well-resourced health systems manage the situation effectively. So that's the hypothesis. That means badly functioning under-resourced health systems won't be doing a good job. And because we have so specifically, clearly created gendered norms, women should do this, men should do this, and frontline health workers also have those kind of gendered norms out there, they seem to be increasing the infection. Okay. So, what are my sources of data? The sources of data for me are historical analysis of the global crisis response, because during COVID-19, I can't do much research. So I'm going to do it based on past data. I'm also going to include the previous data and at the same time possibly try and get hold of some local geography-based pilot study and try to do that. So that's source of data and the analytical methods. Okay. The next is the main findings. My main findings are: pregnant women with COVID-19 should be treated as a high-risk category and be given increased monitoring in safe environments. The potential impacts on health clinics: they can't do long waits in waiting rooms because higher risk, cancelled services, risk and ill health of staff, shortage of contraceptives, medications due to international and interstate importation issues. All these issues impact pregnancies. So that's one lot of main findings. Now let me move on to the next bit. So I also queried the link between various country lockdowns and reverting to some non-progressive thinking leading to intolerance, discrimination, racial violence. And what are the suggested responses? Good community participation, encouragement of that, awareness promotion, provision of inclusive and quality services, access to information, ensuring transparency and accountability and collaboration. Now, what I want you to do at some point of time when you get time is go to all these 5 important slides and put them all together underneath the title, the sentences from this. Automatically, it makes an excellent abstract. So whether it is Salman or Nell or whoever it is who wants to be enticed to read my article, they need to know what's the article about, what's the question, how did they do it, what did they do, what did they find, and what are they saying. If that entire menu is not given to me, why do I want to read it? So a good article must have all these 5 or 6 elements. So I'm going to repeat these things just for the heck of it. Okay. First thing that you need is a good title. As you can see, in this case, there is a title, and immediately after the title, you must have the research question. Or in other words, after a couple of lines, you must raise that research question. After that, you must give why you are writing the article. And after that, you need to write key theoretical propositions or hypotheses advanced or evaluated in that particular article. After that, release the sources of data and the analytical methods that are used. Then, of course, talk to the main findings. You don't tell them in the abstract, the discussion is there, there are conclusions. No, you don't say that. You just say the main findings of this are as follows and go ahead and put it into the abstract itself. Okay. So that is all that I wanted to say as far as the first example is concerned. I'm going to go through a few more examples and I'm going to do a new share. Hopefully that will come up. That's a new share. Okay, I need to make this new share into bigger document. Just let me get this across to you. Sorry, sometimes. Okay. Right. Hopefully, well, that should help us out. So now the second article that I'm looking at is the coronavirus anxiety scale, a brief mental health screener for COVID-related anxiety. This is a genuine article. The first one was a fake article, but I just wanted to write something and give it to you. Lee, for instance, has written this article on coronavirus anxiety scale, a brief mental health screener for COVID-19 related anxiety. So, without using the research question, I'm going to help you to read the abstract in such a way that it will help everybody to understand. The abstract reads as follows. The purpose of this study, or the purpose of this article, is to develop and evaluate a brief mental health screener that can be used to reliably identify probable cases of dysfunctional anxiety associated with the coronavirus. The coronavirus pandemic is spreading across the world and is causing mass tragedies and heightened worldwide fear and anxiety. I've just recently written an article called Fear is an Industry. So, you can imagine how fear is being monetized, commercialized. The mental health needs of people have been neglected and no screening till date has been developed and tested to identify those in risk. So when I'm reading the sentence to you without that rationale of the article, you can easily see, hey, this guy knows how to write and he has written it well. The next thing, I'm going to see whether he has key theoretical propositions or hypotheses advanced or evaluated in this article. The author offers an empirical quantitative study to determine the reliability and usefulness of the brief mental health screener. Mental health screener means a questionnaire that he is trying to use. It is anticipated that a screener can be developed to address the current need. The principal component and factor analysis has also been utilized. Then the abstract will start talking about online survey in March 2020 with a sample size of 446 men and 329 women was included. A 5-point scale with 20 items covering social attitudes, psychological effects, maladaptive coping, and functional impairment were considered. CAS was then developed. Trailed at a 5-point scale, survey was developed to measure the following 2 weeks of symptoms covering cognitive, behavioral, emotional, and physiological aspects of coronavirus anxiety. See appendix. Okay. Now, the next thing that I'm going to read is the author focused on the outputs on online survey to identify key themes and then compare those with the American Psychiatric Association's DSM-5 to ensure validity. All those people who are studying mental health will know that we do have a manual, and we look at that. The analytical approach, principal component and factorial analysis was utilized. The main findings are the CAS was identified as a highly reliable mental health screener and is comparable with other psychiatric screening tests and its sensitivity. Wow! In the main findings, when I find something like that, I would like to know what's happening. So I'd like to read more about it. And then, of course, what is that mental health screener? So I'm going to hopefully, just to take it up, I'll show you how they did. They asked these questions last 2 weeks. How often have you experienced the following activity in the last 2 weeks? I felt dizzy, lightheaded, faint when I read. I had trouble staying asleep because I was thinking about coronavirus. I felt paralyzed, frozen. All these are the kind of feelings many people had. So that is the kind of thing that I'm talking about when building up scales and doing things in a different way. Okay, now I'll share with you one more example and then I'll come back to your discussions. Okay. Okay. So this one, hopefully we will increase the size. Okay. Right. In many countries, you know that there was a lot of pre-purchase of personal equipment by a number of people. So this article is about fear appeal favoring purchase behavior towards personal protective equipment. Masks, the plastic gear, everybody wanted to go and buy it. So this is written by somebody in a service industry article, fear appeal favoring purchase behavior. So what are we looking at? What is the research question? The research question is, how can we understand the trends and impacts of panic buying associated with the COVID-19 in China? It's a very secretive kind of a thing. Many people would not know, but even there was panic buying. PPEs, personal protective equipment, are the center of attention during this crisis. With stockpiling, means everybody buys whatever they can get hold of. Price spikes, increase of prices, shortage of general merchandise, anticipation of lockdowns. Even before the newspaper can say there is going to be a lockdown, the shopkeeper will tell you, oh, in 2 hours there's going to be a lockdown. Rumor mongering sets in. So this is one of the first studies on dynamic consumer purchase behavior in China, with the trends of panic buying and live streaming of purchases never been explored before in a crisis. Everybody was purchasing it. Okay. So what are the theory? What is the theory behind it? Every article must have a theory. There is likely to be a strong link between fear and panic buying. Many people did that. Even in Australia, we went to the Indian shop and we bought 30 kilos of rice. We generally buy about 5 kilo bag every fortnight or maybe 20 days or something. But we bought it for maybe 2 or 3 months or so in advance. And we brought a few other lentils and other things very, very quickly. We bought soap. We bought toilet paper, tons of it. Why? Because that's one thing which was important at that point of time. So there was always panic buying. And all those people who are over 60 were always asked to come in the morning at 7 o'clock to the shops so that there could be a special queue for them and they could buy at that point of time. So focus on life-saving motives. What is the motive for doing that? I want to spare my family from agony. I want to spare myself. I want to keep it for myself. So that is a buying out of fear. That is called hedonic or utilitarian motive of necessity. See how beautifully every article will have a sense behind it? You just need to look at that. Suppose you simply keep on doing socioeconomic study of some farmer somewhere, socioeconomic study of a tribal person somewhere, or anything like that, a mundane kind of study. You may not be able to figure out, because in the beginning, you haven't understood what is it that you are trying to figure out. Why is it that you are trying to do that study? A study is done without a reason. And that is a tragedy. You need to first of all fix a reason. I'd like to find out whether I can change their socioeconomic situation. I'd like to find out whether their socioeconomic situation is compelling them to live in poverty. I'd like to find out and correlate their socioeconomic situation to their literacy. So my hypothesis then is the socioeconomic variables will correlate to literacy, will correlate to economic, will correlate to anything in future. Socioeconomic variables will correlate to motivation. So this kind of higher order understanding comes to you only when you read. Damn it, your guide also reads along with you at the same time. It's very, very important to be extremely clear that we need to see why an article is accepted, why an article is being printed, why an article is to be read. You need to incentivize me as to why I need to read it, right? So this is the reason why. So then comes the next issue in this, the data collection. What did they do? They took the data from COVID-19 in the same dirty place, Wuhan. China, suspected, confirmed fatality has always been there. Collected about 834 daily data from 40 live streaming shops. That means like Amazon's and all those kind of shops. And on 50/50 onto live streaming platforms. 10 shops started specializing in PPEs and the others in other dress materials, the gowns that you need to wear, the headgear, the socks, the glove, everything else. Yeah, collected daily purchases, looked at them, as well as chatting, likes, visits, ascertained the social presence. So what were the variables? Simple variable, PPE, personal protective equipment, price and gender. How nice. Young modern people who have a little more money will buy very, very fashionable masks. You know that now. In the beginning, we all had, the typical hospital type of mask. Nowadays, the most prettiest masks come out. I sometimes, feel very, very envious at the design. There is gender discrimination in masks. Beautiful designs are made. Compliments to women. They dress well, and obviously they want to have top of the range mask on their face, and then masks with their names, masks with which suit the dress that they are wearing. So this become a tailor-made commodity. And how did it come about? Think about it. We are coping. We are sad that COVID is there. At the same time, we know that we need to live. I know people are dying. We see every day an RIP written out somewhere or the other. There are some family members also lost. At the same time, we need to move on. And that moving on means new index, new fashion, new chatting, new pricing, and of course, new PPEs. So in other words, life after COVID, there's no after, it's alongside COVID, has become a new COVID normal. And sometimes it's disgusting when you don't have money, when you don't have resources, when your internet fails. I can imagine, because the other day I was talking to a few friends in Africa, the continent of Africa. There are places where they pay top money to get 2 hours of internet. So if we live in an inequitable world, all resources are not available. Internet is one of the cheapest things, but somehow somebody has made it expensive. And this is one of those important things that you need to know. So gender, price, PPE is an important issue that they try to do. Well, forget about what the analytical process that they did, the higher statistical goal that they had, serial mediated analysis. Don't worry about that. But I'm just, I took the example of this because it's a very, very human-centered example. Now, what are the main findings of this article? The PPE purchases, personal protective equipment purchases, increased significantly with the appreciation of COVID-19 statistics. Suspected cases every day, that world O-meter. You just put Philippines there, it'll tell you how many people died, how many people cases recovered, how many people are, living all right, and what's happening. And there are data about every country. I get worried about UK because my son and his family are out there. And they're still, the whole country is learning some lessons at this point of time. They're trying to do hotel quarantining and things like that. India and Australia must be very, very proud that they started hotel quarantining a long time ago. Initially, the government of India itself paid for everybody who came from overseas, but then they said, no, it's stupid. The travelers who pay so much money to travel abroad can pay for their cleanup for 15 days and stay in a hotel. And that's fair enough. So in Australia too, we've done the same thing, and we do that every day. We're not going to be open for quite some time. I don't anticipate going to, as I mentioned some time ago, that I go to India at least twice a year. I go to South Asia at least twice a year. But I'm not going to go there until maybe 22. I haven't been there. I've been there in 19. That's going to be a situation like that. So you have to understand that people are looking at the confirmed cases, number of deaths recorded, and various things. and the main findings. Countries including Australia increased prices for PPE. Some everyday consumables increased, having a direct or indirect impact or willingness to purchase ahead of quality and trustworthiness of the product and brand. I don't even want to know where it is coming from. Initially, even in shops, here they used to advertise, this is made in China. Because people were, an anti-China sentiment was there initially. But then they started asking people, yeah, I mean, what is not made in China? We are in a helpless situation. Except babies that we produce of our own in our own country. Looks like everything is made in China. One big lesson that has taught to everybody around the world is we must become self-reliant. We must do something in our own country. We may not match everything, but we must begin to do our own. That's a great lesson for everybody, not to be reliant alone on someone or the other. So that's one of those articles I felt that I needed to bring it to your notice. And what I would now do is I have stopped the screen sharing, and I would probably like to go back and ask you all, what questions have you got? And we've got, I think, about 10 minutes more or 15 minutes more to undertake some conversation. The reason why I have done this very, very particular article, how to write an abstract and what to read in an abstract. So what I have asked you to do is, whenever you take an article, read that article from those 5 questions or 5 points of view. Once you do that, write down your notes on a separate piece of paper. Let's assume you see let me hope that I can pull out an article from here. Okay, I pulled out. Okay, let's assume that you see an article which is basically about some civil society and everything, which came out in Asian Social Action. And what happens there is that there is, there are authors, there's an abstract and everything else. But what you would probably be doing is, again, analyze it. Don't just look in the abstract. Abstract will tell you what it has got, but go and see beyond the abstract. In other words, you are going to improve that article itself by rewriting it in those 5 elements. So once you rewrite something like that, as I showed you again, make a copy on the top, make another sheet of paper, stick it. So that shows a summary how you read that article. Next time when you need, that summary will in a way help you to keep. So make your own bibliography, make your own article readings in that fashion. And I want to take up some questions, very, very specific questions. I don't mind the questions to be coming from a BSW student, an MSW student, a PhD scholar, or if there are even lecturers who are finding it a little difficult for themselves to write an article, or for them to guide their student, they want some ideas. I think I'm reasonably seasoned in this area, so I may be in a position to give you a couple of ideas which you can easily see. So let me know what your questions are, and I will give it over to the president of NAPSV, the students' president, to begin the conversation, and you can open the conversation now. We've got, I think, about 13 minutes more.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Shivani Agrawal. I have a question.
Yeah. Tell me something about yourself, Shivani. Who are you?
So, sir, I'm a research scholar in social work at Dr.
Mhm.
Shakuntala Mishra National Rehabilitation University, Lucknow, in Uttar Pradesh. So I'm doing my PhD in the field of drought management. So I'm working on women. So I just have a question like, suppose when we are writing a a paper based on the secondary reviews, so how should we articulate that? Can you just, suggest me few important things, the guidelines that needs to be followed?
Have you been listening to me for all the last 15-20 minutes?
Sir, I missed the starting lecture. I was not able to connect. I've starting few minutes I missed it. Yeah.
Okay, so what I would do is I wouldn't repeat this for two
Okay.
reasons. This
Hmm.
entire recording will be available to you.
Sure, sir.
Just ask these guys, and it will be more or less a bit of a waste of time. What is very, very important is, did you see the last example that I gave you?
Yeah, this paper of the civil society movement, and yeah.
Not the civil society movement. Before that, were you there?
I'm not sure, sir. So just can you? I was there when you were discussing upon. I guess the sources, and then before you were on the COVID-19 thing.
Okay. Did you attend any PowerPoint at all today?
No, sir.
Oh, you missed it. So I think the best
Yeah.
thing is, Shivani, there's no point me repeating.
Okay, sir.
There are 5 aspects which I've already
Hmm.
discussed in the mainstream of the paper. Napsi Students President is out there. One of the things that they are basically doing at the end of the day is put up a complete recording of this, and they are making it available to everybody else. And in addition to that, they will also be showing this entire thing back
sir.
on Facebook and other media. So that's for sure. That will definitely happen. And
sir.
you will easily find, because I have spent 25 minutes primarily on
Okay.
that very topic.
Okay, I'm so
right?
sorry. I was
That's
not able
okay.
to
That's okay.
connect.
That's okay.
Yes.
These are the problems that we all have, so that's fine. And you will be able to work through those realities. Any other question that you have?
No, sir. It was basically on the
That's all
secondary
right.
review I faced problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. And also
Hello.
you can look up, or you can also look up, Shivani, in terms of how to write secondary data-based
Okay, sir.
research articles, and they are called review articles, basically.
Okay,
So
sir.
there are metadata analysis and literature review. So when you look it up, you will get a lot of guidance. Literature
sir.
review in social sciences, literature review of secondary data. When you put these kind of things, you will easily
sir.
get those ideas. And the other thing that is available to everybody is Sage Book of Research is available.
Research.
Very good research data is available out there. Okay, next question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
If anybody else has a question, they can.
Yes, I have.
Yes, please ask.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Sadaf Khan here. Sir, I'm a PhD scholar from Nagpur University. Sir, I have a question that you have mentioned in the abstracts, the points, the 5 or 6 points, and in the third point, that is why writing, the rationale of the article.
Yes.
Sir, in that point, do we need to include some statistical data in our abstract, or the statistical data should include in the introduction of the full paper? I'm a little skeptic about the statistical data. Where should we include that statistics, whether in introduction or in abstract in the third point? Thank you.
Why does data come? See, the data that I want to read in the abstract should be inviting me to read your abstract. In the abstract itself, if you start saying pi squares were like this, chi-squares were like this, and beta data was like this, and gamma data was like this, and I just had to say, go to hell. I don't need your article, because I'm not looking, I want to get the meat, I want to get the flavor. I don't get the flavor by statistics, I get the flavor by quality. The statistics are those elements which are necessary because you want to prove something. So what you can just mention is the data was, the various statistical things have been utilized or whatever it is, because it's understood. Even that statement, various statistical analysis was done, I've done this, I've done that, etc., is not even required in your abstract. We want to know whether there is a hypothesis. That's all. Hypothesis doesn't mean it has to be a real hypothesis. It can be hypothetical statements. What did you think, or the conditions in which such data will prevail? That's all that you need to be worried about. You use the word, you are skeptical yourself. If you are skeptical, don't even bother to give your skepticism to somebody. Just leave it. You'll write a good paper. Next.
So there's question we got that like everything has shifted online and there's a lot of digital fatigue. So how should we write? Like, should we write directly? That's a personal preference, but should students write directly on the internet, or should they write it on a page and then type it? Because reading online and then writing online, there are differences in the quality. I presume there may be. So what's your
You see, that's a researchable question because there's a presumption there. And my own life, I could give you an example that about 45 years ago, I shifted to computer when I was 18, 19. So I don't even when I write my own name, signature in the bank, every time it is difficult. Not because I'm wearing this hand wrist at this point of time, that's another thing that's temporarily I've got a problem with the wrist because I've been overdoing my computing work, but it's just become a habit. So, Indians, most of us, whether Indians, Filipinos, whoever we are, some of us think in our own language and then try to translate it into English, our thoughts. Some of us have learned to think in a foreign language, like English, and then go the other way around. Now you use the word fatigue. Fatigue for whom? 24/7, your life is on internet. You're getting bored now on internet because those teachers who don't know how to use internet are possibly trying to come and give you lectures on internet. If they were as savvy as you were, doing WhatsApp, doing all those kind of social media, doing everything else, the world would have been cute. You are much savvy, you're much more internet savvy than most of the teachers are. So that's become a challenge in many, many countries. Internet itself has not been available. So as a result, they don't know what to do. There are people who come to the conferences who don't know how to write a PowerPoint. They bring a Word document and then they bring it and ask somebody else to help you to make it into a PowerPoint. Understandable. So one has to grow. I believe you need to grow. You need to capture. COVID has given you a new leaf. a new message, a new opportunity. Use any opportunity that you have. Look for journals which are available, which are internet-based journals where you can write. Blog. Make a space. Make an identity for yourself. Everybody must have a few people celebrating his writing. The more thought will come out. So that's what I would like to say. There's no fatigue. Everybody will have somebody who reads you. You can invite people when you have difficulties like that. So that means you become sharper. I'm writing, nobody's listening. Oh, maybe you didn't listen to them in the beginning as to what they want you to write. It starts the other way around. When I started your lectures yesterday and today, I spent time with your ambassadors and executive committee asking what would you like to hear from me. I could have just gone on my own tangent and given you lectures, but I felt it's important for me to know what you're looking for and create the thirst further and give it to you. Otherwise, it will be like a horse driven to a pond when it is not thirsty. So in a deliberate, planned, and sustained way, you can create the thirst in the horse to drink that water by telling her, first run the horse without drinking water. It becomes thirsty. Then take her to the pond. It'll drink. Next time, don't take her to the pond. You know, the Pavlovian experiments that have been done. So those are the ways by which you can always create your audiences, teach your audiences, grow with your audiences, and tell them you have a responsibility for my growth. Okay, so that's my answer to you. Any other last question that we could take?
Hello,
Yes.
sir.
Yes, Pandita.
Sir, I just want to some clarification about when we use qualitative research methodology for our data collection and our research. So while writing articles, so as you have mentioned, key the theoretical positions or hypothesis advance. So that point, what should we write about? Because in qualitative research we mostly not use like hypothetical position.
Why
So
not? Why not? Who told you that?
we mostly use conceptual framework, sir. So
Right.
I think that is maybe my understanding. So that's what I just
Yeah, I mean, use whatever is convenient. See, my idea of, you see, I'm not giving a research class here because what
yes.
happens is it's very, I mean, I do teach research and I teach research for PhD students, and but certainly, on question, on research hypothesis, qualitative research, and other areas, need a slightly different kind of discussion. But all I can say is hypothesis is nothing but a question that you raise
Okay.
in a way that it would probably, it will tell you what's going to happen. The feasibility, the plausibility, those are the kind of arguments that you would make. See, if you just say, yeah, this is a qualitative study, I just went about to find out whatever it is and I found out this. That's not, you begin with a hypothesis.
Okay. So it's become a hypothetical position.
Yes. See, you are actually trying to find out something from somebody on the basis of what? You have a notion.
Yes.
Yeah, you have a notion. You're not saying You're not coming out from moon. You're coming out from the same neighborhood. You're just trying to find out. I've got this gut feeling. I've got these hunches. I've got this notion. I've got this feeling. I've got this, I've got this throat cleaning that I have to do. So that is the hypothesis. Sharpen it. When you sharpen it, sharpen that sentence, it will come good.
Okay, sir.
All right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you, sir. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you very much.